week 5 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I looked at off the wire this week. The first hitter, Brenton Doyle of the Colorado Rockies. So Doyle, I mentioned him a couple weeks ago as a decent ad where he was just doing a little bit, but now he's starting to get things going over the last couple weeks. On the year, 3 home runs, 8 RBIs, 18 runs scored, 4 stolen bases, a 326 batting average, and a 373 on base. And like I said, the last couple weeks, no homers and RBI, 4 stolen bases, 8 runs scored, a 350 average, and a 409 on base. The stolen bases, on base percentage, and average Doyle's going to bring. I know his strikeout rate's a little high, 31 Ks in 99 at-bats, but he's going out there and he's making the most of his opportunities. Once again this year with the Colorado Rocky team. Last season, he did get a lot of opportunities, but he didn't make the most of them. 10 homers, 48 ribs, 22 bags, a 203 average. But this year, hitting the ball a little hard is his exit velo. He's getting on base a little bit more, and he's got a prominent role batting second in this lineup. April 23rd versus the Padres, 2 for 4, 2 runs. April 24th versus the Padres, 1 for 4. April 25th, a big game versus the Padres, 3 for 4, 3 runs, an RBI, 2 stolen bases. April 27th versus the Astros, 1 for 4, 2 runs. And April 28th versus the Astros, 1 for 4. So right now, he's getting good playing time, obviously, batting second in this Rocky lineup. And he plays in a great hitter's park as well, obviously, in Coors Field. So if you need some outfield help in stolen base upside, I like Doyle as an ad this week, and he's available right now in 62% of fantasy leagues. The next hit is Mark Canha of the Detroit Tigers. So Mark Canha getting an everyday opportunity, and we saw some flashes from him last year with the New York Mets. We know he's an on-base type of play and has some underrated pop. We could hit anywhere from 15, 25 home run range. On the year, 5 homers, 15 RBIs, 13 runs scored, a stolen base, a 273 average, and a 407 on base. But the last 2 weeks, he's white hot, 2 home runs, 9 RBI, 7 runs scored, a 357 average, and a 471 on base. And Mark Canha is still out there in 58% of fantasy leagues. And he's been an on-base machine. And if you need on-base percentage and a good average with some upside at pop, I think I would give Canha an ad this week. April 24th at the Rays, 1 for 4, 2 RBIs. April 26th versus the Royals, 2 for 4. April 27th versus the Royals, 1 for 3, a run and RBI. And April 28th versus the Royals, 1 for 4 with a run. So right now, Mark Canha up second in this lineup, getting everyday at-bats and opportunity. And that's all you could ask for sometimes in these 12-team leagues or deeper. A guy who's getting opportunity, and he does at least a couple things pretty decent where he can help your fantasy team. So right now, I give Canha an ad this week. The next ad, Brandon Marsh of the Philadelphia Phillies. So he's been on this list already this season. Here's Marsh. And so far, playing great baseball. 6 home runs, 16 RBIs, 10 runs scored, a 290 batting average, and a 334 on base percentage. So Brandon Marsh, we know he's more of a defensive player than anything. But last season, he did have 12 homers, 60 RBIs, 10 bags with a 277, and a solid on base at 372. So right now, getting the everyday chance with Philadelphia. Philly, one of the best teams in the league once again this year. And Brandon Marsh, he's been a nice part of it. April 25th at the Reds, 1 for 4 with a run. April 26th at the Padres, 3 for 5, a homer, 3 ribs. April 27th at the Padres, 1 for 3. And April 28th at the Padres, 1 for 4. So like I said, everyday chance. And I know he strikes out a decent amount here, is Brandon Marsh, but he's getting an opportunity, batting 6th in one of the better lineups in all the major leagues. And right now, well, he's producing. He's definitely a great ad this week. Ryan Jeffers of the Minnesota Twins. So Ryan Jeffers, it's been a solid start of the year for him right now. One of the better catchers in fantasy baseball. He's available still in a good amount of leagues at 61% on the season. 5 home runs, 17 RBIs, 14 runs scored, 286 average, and a 385 on base. So right now, he's been a good part of this Minnesota Twin lineup. Batting first or third for the most part, he is Jeffers. So he's got an everyday job, obviously, he's the starting catcher for this team. And he don't really take many days off as well here for the prototypical catcher is Jeffers. So the last 2 games, April 25th versus the White Sox, 1 for 3 with a homer. April 26th at the Angels, 1 for 4 with a rib. April 27th at the Angels, 2 for 4 with a homer, 2 RBIs. And April 28th at the Angels, 3 for 5 with 2 runs and an RBI. So that 3-game set at the Angels, he really wore him out, was Ryan Jeffers. So right now, well, he's out there in 61% of fantasy leagues. He has a great matchup coming up to start this week off at the White Sox, one of the worst, if not the worst, pitching staffs in all the major leagues. So right now, definitely a solid ad this week. The next ad, Alex Verdugo of the New York Yankees. So Verdugo, he got off to a slow start the first few weeks of the season for the New York Yankees, but now he's really picked it up here over the last few weeks. On the season, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, 17 runs scored, a stolen base, a 274 average, and a 368 on-base percentage. So Verdugo getting the everyday opportunity. It was a nice off-season deal for the Yankees, and he's batting anywhere from the 4th to the 7th range. And even we've seen him in there versus lefties. So in a dynamic offense led by Aaron Judge, Anthony Volpe, and obviously Juan Soto, he's going to get good pitches to hit, and that's exactly been the case of late as well. April 25th versus Oakland, 2 for 4. April 26th at the Brewers, 1 for 4 with a homer and RBI. April 27th at the Brewers, 3 for 5, a homer, 4 RBIs, 2 runs scored. And April 28th at the Brewers, 1 for 6 with a run. So like I said, Verdugo's getting many opportunities. This Yankee offense has exploded, especially the last 2 games, 30 runs in that time. And they're going to continue to put up numbers. Obviously not at this clip of Verdugo playing good baseball and being in the middle of things here. Available right now, 57% of fantasy leagues. Next hit is his teammate Anthony Rizzo of the New York Yankees. So Rizzo, I feel like, has been a forgotten guy this year here after last season with the concussion problems and one of the worst seasons of his career with 12 homers, 41 RBIs. So far this year, 5 home runs, 15 RBIs, 15 runs scored, a 270 batting average, and a 325 on base percentage. So Rizzo definitely off to a greater start than he was last year. And already in a month, he almost got most of his numbers that he got last season in a month here this year. I know last season he missed a month and a half is Anthony Rizzo. But like I said, to have 5 home runs where he hit only 12 last season and to have already 15 RBIs where he had 41 is definitely a big improvement here for Anthony Rizzo. So right now he's available in 58% of fantasy leagues. And another guy with not pressure on him, obviously, in this New York Yankee lineup where he just could go out there and not feel anything batting 5th or 6th in this lineup where you got great hitters like Judge and Soto with all the pressure on them. And obviously with good pitches going to Rizzo where teams are pitching around those players for the most part. April 24th versus Oakland, 2 for 4, homer and RBI. April 25th versus Oakland, 1 for 4. April 26th at the Brewers, 0 for 5. April 27th at the Brewers, 3 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs, 3 runs scored. And April 28th at the Brewers, 4 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs, 3 runs scored. So the last 2 games, and that 30 runs in the 2 games for the Yankees. Anthony Rizzo's gone out there, and he's put up huge numbers. So right now, while he's still out there in 58% of fantasy leagues, he's a good ad this week. The next ad, Pete Crow-Armstrong of the Chicago Cubs. So one of their top prospects, he came up after Cody Bellinger's been put on the injured list a few days ago, obviously with the rib injury, and he could be out for a little bit here. So on the year for Crow-Armstrong, 1 homer, 4 RBIs in the early going, a run scored, and a 400 average and a 400 on base. So Pete Crow-Armstrong, he's definitely got pop. Like I said, the top 100 prospect in all the major leagues. And this Cub team, they got him in that Javier Baez deal a few years ago with the New York Mets, and we saw him have a cup of coffee last season. 14 at-bats was Armstrong. We had no home runs and an RBI, so far he's off to a good start. Like I said, top 100 prospect in the major leagues and one of the top prospects in the Cubs system. So the first few games for Crow-Armstrong, April 25th versus Houston, 1 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs. April 26th at Boston, 2 for 3, 2 RBIs. And April 27th at Boston, 1 for 3. So they got him 9th in the order. He's got some pop, and he's a player that possibly could expand and be a big-time pickup this season if he keeps getting opportunities. And we'll see how long Bellinger is out. So we'll see if he could get opportunities with Bellinger out. Next hitter, Andy Pages of Los Angeles Dodgers, so one of their top prospects in the system. When he came up a couple weeks ago, here's Pages. On the year, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, 10 runs scored, a 290 batting average, and a 327 on base. So far, a decent start here for Pages. Another guy where there's not going to be a lot of pressure on him in a stacked lineup where you got Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith in the lineup, where he just has to go out there, play baseball, and he's going to get good pitches to hit. So right now, last few games for Pages, April 25th at the Nats, 1 for 4. April 26th at the Blue Jays, 2 for 4, run and a rib. April 27th at the Blue Jays, 1 for 4, run. And April 28th at Toronto, 2 for 4. So this Dodger team, they thought they needed some more hitting in their lineup. With Chris Taylor obviously off to a horrible start on the year. We can't just buy a hit. And Pages, he's been playing every day since he got called up from the minor leagues a couple weeks ago. So right now, while he's out there in a decent amount of fantasy leagues here, is Pages in 75%. He's definitely in there because he's got good upside. And like I said, he's going to get a lot of good pitches to hit in a loaded lineup where teams are going to pitch around a little bit those superstars, and Pages could be the beneficiary of those, batting 6th or 7th, usually in the lineup. The next hitter, Joe Adell of the Los Angeles Angels. So Adell, he's a former top prospect in the system, and so far he's got off to a good start with opportunity. Available right now, Adell, in tons of fantasy leagues in 92% on the season. 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, 10 runs scored, 5 stolen bases, a 333 average, and a 392 on base. So Adell, he's been up the whole season for this Los Angeles Angel team, but he wasn't an everyday player. But over the last week and a half, especially with Rendon out once again, they found that bats here for Adell when he's batting 7th in this lineup, and he's made the most of his opportunity. Like I said, a former top prospect in the system, it just hasn't panned out over the last couple years. April 24th versus Baltimore, 1 for 3. April 26th versus the Twins, 0 for 3. April 27th versus the Twins, 3 for 4, a homer, 3 RBIs. And April 28th versus the Twins, 1 for 4 with a run and a rib. So everyday opportunity. He's driving the ball. His exit VOs are pretty good, and he's got good stolen base prowess as well, with 5 stolen bases in the early going. So Adell, he could do a little bit of everything, I believe, in the deeper leagues, 12-team leagues deeper, or just 5 outfielder type of leagues, I think, is where he is the ad this week. Available right now in 92% of fantasy leagues. And the final hitter I looked at this week's Joey LaFido of the Houston Astros. So LaFido, he's been tearing it up in the minor leagues this season in AAA. 13 home runs, 27 RBIs, 31 runs scored already, 5 stolen bases, a 287 average, and a 393 on base. So LaFido, he's not even the top prospect in this Astros system. Right now, ranked number 6, but he's coming up. We know this Astro team is struggling this season here at 9-19, even though very early in the season. And LaFido, he's showing massive power, no doubt about it, with already the 13 home runs in 101 at-bats. I believe they're going to call him up, and he's going to get good playing time, is LaFido. It doesn't make sense to call someone up with that power, especially on a team that's struggling right now, and just to have him sitting on the bench where he also can play for a second in outfield, even though right now in fantasy baseball he qualifies in an outfield. So right now, with the massive power upside, he's going to be in a good lineup of great hitters, obviously, like Kyle Tucker, Jose Altuve, Jordan Alvarez. So LaFido, I think, gets an opportunity to only help fantasy owners. I know his strikeout rate's a little high in the minor leagues, but power on on-base percentage should be his specialty here, is LaFido, and we'll see if he could come up right away and immediate impact. So right now, he's available, is LaFido, in 82% of fantasy leagues. That's a few hitters I looked at off the wire for week 5 of the fantasy baseball season.